Something happened this morning that the most advanced geological monitoring system on Earth cannot explain. Not a glitch, not a sensor error, not a misreading buried in a data log that someone will quietly correct by afternoon. A real, confirmed, multi-instrument event that has geologists, astrophysicists, and particle physicists looking at the same dataset and arriving at the same impossible conclusion. And the fact that you have not seen this on any major news channel is not because it isn't significant. It is because the people who understand what it means are not yet ready to say it out loud. The 13th of March 2026. 4 hours ago, the United States Geological Survey's Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, the most continuously monitored geological system anywhere on the planet, registered a reading. Its own instruments have no historical reference. 4. Every borehole strain meter along the Caldera rim is active. Every seismograph in the University of Utah's detection network is transmitting live data. And what began at 8:14 UTC this morning has not stopped. The magma pressure inside Yellowstone's supervolcanic chamber dropped by 14% in 3 seconds with zero eruption, zero thermal venting, and zero geological explanation. To understand why 3 seconds is not a minor footnote but the most critical number in this entire analysis, you first have to understand what Yellowstone actually is beneath the surface that tourists photograph every summer. Yellowstone is not a volcano in any conventional sense. It is a supervolcano, a geological category so fundamentally distinct from ordinary volcanic systems that it demands its own classification entirely. Beneath the rolling grasslands and hydrothermal basins of northwestern Wyoming lies a magma reservoir approximately 60 kilometers long, 35 kilometers wide, extending downward through the lithosphere in a column of partially molten rock fed by a mantle plume. Think of it as a blowtorch applied to the underside of the Earth's crust from 660 kilometers below, a column of anomalously hot material rising from deep within the planet's interior with relentless, slow, geological patience. The Yellowstone system has produced 3 catastrophic caldera-forming eruptions in its documented geological history. The most recent, approximately 640,000 years ago, ejected 1,000 cubic kilometers of material, enough volcanic ash to bury the entire continental United States under a layer measurable in meters. The eruption 2.1 million years ago was larger, the one before that, larger still. This system operates on a cycle. Pressure builds, the crust swells, the magma finds a path, and when it does, the release is not a local event, it is a hemispheric one. For decades, USGS monitoring infrastructure has tracked one metric above all others at Yellowstone, the pressure inside the primary magma chamber. Borehole strain meters, instruments of extraordinary sensitivity, capable of detecting the gravitational pull of the moon, acting on the crust monitor that pressure without interruption. The network exists for a single purpose. If the pressure inside that chamber begins moving in the wrong direction at the wrong rate, the response window to any early warning is measured in hours, not days. At 8:14 UTC, borehole B205 on the Caldera rim registered a negative strain reading of 400 nanostrains. For context, 1 nanostrain represents 1 billionth of a unit of deformation. 400 nanostrains is not a subtle signal. It is the unmistakable signature of a massive, instantaneous mechanical change in the subsurface stress field. The University of Utah seismograph network confirmed the event simultaneously. The Sentinel, 1 satellite, using interferometric synthetic aperture radar, a technique that measures ground surface displacement to millimeter precision from orbit, recorded a 4.2 centimeter subsidence of the ground directly above the magma chamber, occurring across a span of 3 seconds. 3 independent measurement systems. 3 entirely different detection methodologies. 1 conclusion. 14% of the pressure energy inside the Yellowstone magma chamber vanished in 3 seconds. Now apply basic thermodynamics. The first law is unambiguous. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It transfers, it converts, it moves. If the pressure inside a sealed geological system drops by 14% instantaneously, the energy that pressure represented must appear somewhere else. As heat, as mechanical displacement, as acoustic energy, as surface uplift. NASA's Landsat 9 satellite passed over Wyoming just 12 minutes after the event. Thermal infrared sensors detected 0 temperature spike, no steam, no surface fracturing, no hydrothermal acceleration. The ground sank 4.2 centimeters and went thermally cold. The energy did not release upward. It did not move laterally through the crust. It did not register as the seismic signature of an underground collapse. It simply ceased to be present inside the chamber. In the entire recorded history of Yellowstone monitoring spanning decades of continuous instrumental observation, no pressure event of this character, at this rate, has ever been documented. Gradual pressure fluctuations occur at Yellowstone. Seasonal ground deformation occurs. Hydrothermal system responses to distant earthquakes occur. None of them, not one event in the entire observational record, produces a 14% instantaneous pressure drop with zero surface thermal signature. That distinction is not a scientific footnote. It is the entire foundation of what this analysis is about to reveal. At the exact timestamp of 8:14 UTC, not minutes before, not minutes after, but at the identical second, the Green Bank telescope in West Virginia detected a directed carrier wave pulse from the interstellar object designated 3I Atlas. The signal was narrowband, coherent and focused. It was broadcasting at a frequency of 4.8 GHz. When the natural resonant frequency of a magma reservoir matching Yellowstone's specific volume, density, and geometry is calculated from first principles using acoustic resonance modeling, the same physics that explains why a crystal glass shatters at a specific pitch, the result is unambiguous. The natural resonant frequency of the Yellowstone magma system resolves to 4.8 GHz. 3I Atlas transmitted a signal at the precise resonant frequency of Earth's most dangerous geological system at the precise moment that system's pressure catastrophically dropped. The statistical probability of this temporal and spectral alignment occurring by chance calculates to less than 1 in 8.4 billion. That is not a coincidence. That is resonance coupling. That is a key entering a lock. Resonance coupling is not exotic or theoretical physics. It is one of the most fundamental phenomena in wave mechanics. Every physical structure has a natural frequency, the rate at which it vibrates most efficiently when disturbed from outside. When an external energy source broadcasts at that exact frequency, the energy transfer between source and target becomes maximally efficient. The classic demonstration is the opera singer shattering a crystal glass. The glass does not break because the sound is loud. It breaks because the frequency matches. The energy couples directly into the glass's vibrational mode. The glass cannot distinguish between absorbing the wave and amplifying it until it exceeds its structural threshold. 3I Atlas did not detonate Yellowstone. It coupled to it. And the pressure did not vent. It transferred. Which means the 14% pressure drop is not energy destroyed. It is energy extracted. Then, 46 minutes later at 9 UTC, the signal pulsed again. Another 4.8 GHz transmission from 3I Atlas, another 14% pressure drop at Yellowstone. Identical in magnitude, identical in duration. The pattern repeated at 9:46 UTC and again at 10:32 UTC. 4 extractions, 4 identical pulses, 4 identical geological responses. This is not a natural event sequence. This is a cycle deliberate, rhythmic, and precisely calibrated. The pressure inside the Yellowstone supervolcanic system is now at its lowest recorded point in 10,000 years of geological proxy data. And somewhere between Earth's crust and an interstellar object 180 million kilometers away, a stream of energy is moving in a direction and through a mechanism that no geological model, no atmospheric physics framework, and no conventional astrophysical process can account for. Where is that energy going? And what does 3I Atlas need with the thermal output of a supervolcano? The answer arrived at 10:45 UTC from the least expected instrument on Earth. The Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, a cubic kilometer of Antarctic ice buried beneath the South Pole, instrumented with over 5,000 optical sensors, designed to detect the faint blue light produced when high-energy neutrinos interact with ice molecules, registered a stream of particles traveling upward through the planet, not downward from space. Upward from Earth's interior, originating from the precise coordinates of the Yellowstone caldera. To understand why upward-traveling neutrinos from a geological source represent a first-order violation of known physics, you need to understand what neutrinos actually are at the particle level. Neutrinos are the most abundant massive particles in the universe. Approximately 65 billion of them pass through every square centimeter of your body every second, produced by nuclear fusion in the sun and streaming outward at nearly the speed of light. They interact with matter so weakly that the entire mass of Earth presents them with a collision probability equivalent to a single sheet of paper. A neutrino produced in the sun's core travels through 700,000 kilometers of stellar plasma, crosses 150 million kilometers of vacuum, passes through the full diameter of Earth, and exits the other side, having experienced, on average, 0 interactions. Neutrinos are, for all practical purposes, invisible to matter. High-energy neutrinos, those carrying energies in the tera-electron-volt range and above, interact slightly more readily, but even they pass through the Earth with minimal resistance. IceCube was built specifically to catch the rare interactions of high-energy cosmic neutrinos arriving from outside our galaxy. It detects a handful per year from confirmed astrophysical sources. What it detected at 10:45 UTC was not a handful. It was a coherent, directed beam carrying a specific quantum flavor signature, matching the radioactive decay products of uranium and thorium isotopes present inside the Yellowstone magma. Uranium and thorium decay is the primary heat source for Earth's geothermal energy budget. As these elements undergo radioactive decay deep in the crust and mantle, they release alpha particles, gamma radiation, and antineutrinos. This process is continuous and well characterized. The geoneutrino flux from Earth's interior has been measured by the Camland detector in Japan and the Borexino detector in Italy. It is a diffuse, isotropic, low-energy background spread uniformly in all directions from each individual decay event. The isotropy is a fundamental quantum mechanical property of the process itself. It does not produce directional beams. It does not concentrate from a single geological location into a coherent stream. What IceCube detected was not isotropic. It was a focused, directional beam aimed from a specific point 3 kilometers beneath the Yellowstone surface, along a trajectory that, when extended upward through Earth's atmosphere and into space, intersects precisely with the calculated position of 3I, Atlas at 180 million kilometers. Theoretical models point to one mechanism: forced nuclear decay induction. The 4.8 GHz resonance signal from 3I, Atlas was not simply coupling to the magma's mechanical pressure. It was interacting with the atomic nuclei of radioactive isotopes within the magma at the quantum level, vibrating those nuclei at their resonant frequencies and accelerating the natural decay process. Instead of uranium-238 decaying over its natural half-life of 4.5 billion years, the resonance signal was inducing decay events at an artificially accelerated rate. Each induced decay released thermal energy and an antineutrino. That thermal energy should have produced a detectable surface heat signature. It did not, because the second component of the mechanism converted that thermal energy into coherent neutrino emission before it could diffuse into the surrounding rock. This is a two-stage wireless energy extraction system operating at the nuclear level across 180 million kilometers of vacuum. The resonance signal induces decay. The decay generates thermal energy and neutrinos. The thermal energy is converted into additional high-energy neutrino emission through a process theoretical physics identifies as stimulated neutrino production, a quantum optical analog of laser-stimulated emission, applied to neutrino generation rather than photon generation. The resulting neutrino beam carries the extracted energy out of Earth's interior, through the atmosphere, and across interstellar distance to 3I, Atlas. No pipes, no physical contact, no atmospheric disturbance. A wireless nuclear energy transfer system using the quantum vacuum as its transmission medium. In 4 hours, theoretical calculations indicate 3I, Atlas extracted 4.2 exajoules of energy from the Yellowstone system. 1 exajoule is 10 to the 18th joules. The total global energy consumption of human civilization across an entire year is approximately 580 exajoules. In 4 hours, from a single geological target, 3I, Atlas, harvested the equivalent of roughly 1 week of total human civilization energy output without touching the planet, without producing a detectable thermal signature, and with a targeting precision narrower than the width of a human hair across 180 million kilometers of space. Then at 11:30 UTC, the signal changed. The 4.8 GHz extraction frequency abruptly shifted to 14.2 GHz. In molecular spectroscopy, 14.2 GHz corresponds to the resonant frequency of water molecules under extreme pressure conditions, specifically supercritical water. At temperatures above 374 degrees Celsius and pressures exceeding 218 atmospheres, water ceases to exist as either liquid or gas. It enters a supercritical state, a phase of matter with simultaneous properties of both, exhibiting extraordinary solvent capacity and dramatically different thermal and acoustic behavior. Deep beneath the Yellowstone magma chamber lies a vast hydrothermal system, a reservoir of supercritical water under precisely these conditions, holding dissolved silica, sulfur compounds, and volatile gases under pressures that would flash vaporize explosively if suddenly released to the surface. 3. Atlas had switched targets. It moved from the magma to the water. Sentinel-1 radar data showed the ground in the northeast quadrant of the park, near the Norris Geyser Basin, beginning to rise at the exact moment the main caldera floor continued to sink. The system was being separated. The volatile hydrothermal component was being isolated from the stable crystallized magma, the geological equivalent of a refinery separation process, differentiating the high-energy volatile fraction from the structural rock matrix and concentrating it into a distinct thermal reservoir for more efficient extraction. At 11:12 UTC, the University of Utah Seismograph Network detected a swarm of 400 micro-earthquakes within the caldera. They were not tectonic in origin. They were not associated with magma movement. They were classified as implosion events. The rapid removal of thermal energy from the rock matrix was causing thermal contraction faster than the surrounding rock could structurally accommodate. The chamber walls were cracking inward, not toward an eruption but away from one. The pressure removal was so rapid that the rock was collapsing into the void left by the extracted energy. A supervolcano in real time was being quietly hollowed out from 180 million kilometers away. Then at 11:45 UTC, the direction reversed entirely. The neutrino beam stopped flowing out of Earth. Every ice cube sensor registered the cessation simultaneously. For 0.88 seconds, a coherent pulse of high-energy particles slammed into the Yellowstone caldera, from above traveling downward from the direction of 3I, Atlas, focused to a point 3 kilometers beneath Old Faithful, delivering an energy density spike 4,000 times the baseline in less than 1 second. The seismographs flatlined for 0.44 seconds. A complete absence of seismic signal, followed by a pure resonant tone across the entire caldera at 14.2 Hz. Not 14.2 GHz, 14.2 Hz. Infrasound, a frequency that propagates through solid rock with near-zero attenuation, capable of penetrating from the surface all the way to the core mantle boundary 2,900 kilometers below. This was not energy extraction, this was something fundamentally different. 3I. Atlas had used Yellowstone as an amplifier. It turned the supervolcano into a planetary radar dish and sent a signal into the deep interior of the Earth to listen for what echoed back. The echo that returned from the mantle changed every question this analysis had been building toward, because the most significant unresolved issue is no longer what 3I, Atlas extracted from Yellowstone. It is what 3I, Atlas was searching for when it sent the signal back in, and whether the structure buried 2,900 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean that absorbed that echo pulse with the selective frequency response of engineered material rather than molten rock was already there long before 3I, Atlas ever arrived. Ultra-low velocity zones have existed in Earth's mantle data for decades. Dense, anomalous regions just above the core mantle boundary that seismologists classified as molten rock accumulations because no better framework existed. But molten rock does not absorb a prime number sequence and return a coherent echo. Molten rock does not exhibit the selective frequency response of engineered material. Molten rock does not respond specifically to a signal transmitted from 180 million kilometers away by an interstellar object that has demonstrated sub-millimeter targeting precision across interstellar distance. The structure beneath the Pacific is not a geological anomaly. It is an answer. The xenon 129, now venting from Yellowstone's fumaroles at 400 times baseline concentration, confirms what the echo data implies. Xenon 129 is produced by exactly two processes in the known universe: supernova nucleosynthesis and controlled nuclear fission. There are no supernovae in Yellowstone's geological history. The low-level, controlled nuclear reaction now active 3 kilometers beneath Wyoming was initiated by the injection pulse. It was not an accident. It was an ignition sequence for a system that has been dormant, not dead, for a time frame our geology cannot yet calculate. A Type 3 civilization does not bury its infrastructure on a planet's surface, where erosion, tectonics, and biological activity will erase it across geological time. It buries it at the core mantle boundary stable, protected, continuously powered by the planet's own radioactive heat budget, waiting for the activation signal that only a civilization capable of resonance coupling across interstellar distance could ever deliver. 3. Atlas, did not come to drain Yellowstone. It came to wake something up. The extraction was the handshake, the injection was the password, and the structure 2,900 kilometers beneath the Pacific just answered. Whatever was buried inside this planet before humanity existed has been listening for that signal for longer than we have been here. The transmission from above has ended, but something beneath your feet has just begun. If this analysis reached you, share it with someone who asks the right questions. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because the next data window opens in less than 48 hours, and what comes out of that mantle echo will either confirm everything laid out here or reveal something none of our models have language for yet. Either way, you need to be watching.